Good evening, Wizards, here from London, and welcome to episode 6 of the Crypto Wizard podcast. Now, for this episode, we will be continuing on the vibes of education, as unfortunately the market has been a little bit slower than anticipated this week in particular, more importantly over the course of the weekend. So using BTC as a little guidance right now, we have barely managed to breach 5,300 and we have barely managed to breach higher than around 5,400. So we have been fluctuating for BTC in around $100 range, whereas for XRP, we have seen a fairly significant reversal off the 34 cents region, which was anticipated, and it was a nice short opportunity provided on that pair. And we have now seen a drop of almost 2 cents precisely. So an excellent opportunity if you guys have margin traded and shorted that region there, because XRP has provided a beautiful opportunity. As for Ether, just to quickly brush up on that as well, we have a pretty textbook ABCD Fibonacci setup unfolding right now. So all we really need for Ether is to break around $167, and we are looking at a fairly relatively easy downside target of around $152.50 to around $150. So things are looking pretty solid for now. XRP looking pretty on target to arrive at that 30.5 cents region and maybe dip down to 29 cents. Now, as for BTC, that's where my current short position is running. Unfortunately, not the best trade to be in right now, as it has been a bit slower than the others. However, with a fairly wide stop loss, almost at $5,475, I'm pretty risk-free for the time being. Just waiting to break even. I believe I entered around 5,275, so price is around $50 at the moment above where I actually entered. So just riding out the current drawdown and targeting a potential meltdown to $4,800. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh my God, you said $6,000. I did. And we are still heading for the expected target. However, I do believe there is going to be a fairly large shockwave move in the market to stop hunt many people out each trades, because we have seen a very significant bullish rise from the initial breakout of around $4,000. And obviously with such a significant move, almost taking us a whole $1,000 higher, it is pretty, well, more than $1,000 higher actually, theoretically. We have jumped around $1,300 higher from that significant breakout at the beginning of April. So price does have a fairly significant downside push to fulfill to at least stop loss hunt to some extent. And I do believe if this doesn't reach 4,700, there should be a push to around $5,000 at least before continuing the rally higher. So overall, we have a slight intraday to a short-term trade within an overall longer-term long trade. And the only reason I've really gone for BTC on this trade is because the dominance has now jumped to 52.8%. And if you actually go back to the very beginning of these podcasts, you will notice that the BTC dominance was actually fluctuating in the 48 to 49 cents region 49% region, when we first started. So we have been seeing a slow but steady incline, even when the market has risen or fallen. For some reason, that BTC dominance has been increasing. Now, whether that's to do with Tether printing millions and millions more alleged dollars worth of the USDT to help inflate the price or dictate some form of market movement, I do not know. However, I am starting to believe BTC dominance increasing is a good sign that I should be following the money on BTC and letting the other altcoins catch up slowly over time. As of now, Ether and XRP are significantly lower, around 2% lower than the rest of the market. You have got Bitcoin Cash and EOS and Litecoin that are actually down around 7%, but when using BTC as a measurement right now, it's only down 1% compared to the rest of the market. So I do believe there could be some catching up to do in terms of BTC falling lower. So we will just let the market unfold. In terms of news as well, it's been horrifically slow this week, which has been quite sad to see, considering there should have been some potential movements in the market. But that would explain why we've been really dying down over the weekend, because the fundamentals are very low and the market manipulation has somehow died down. But we always know when the market begins to really slow down and start consolidating, it's normally a sign of a much larger move to follow. So we are hoping to see this unfold very soon, just sitting tight, remaining patient, and hopefully by next week we can really see a market push. But the purpose of this podcast, well, as you know, I am shifting down this educational route, and I'm also trying to now have more of a Q&A style question before we actually begin the podcast or the Wizard Wednesdays, and give you guys the opportunity to dictate the subjects, in particular the educational philosophical or psychological subjects, I think it's actually better to have it down to you guys. Like, when there are certain moments where I feel I should be providing content based on the market bias, then by all means I would do so off my own back. But I do find it more satisfying when you guys actually provide what you want, because that way I can kind of engage much better with all of you and get an overall rounded figure on who needs this, who needs that, what's the overall market momentum, what are you guys worried about right now, for example. And then from there we can just delve further and create more healthy discussions and topics to move forward. So with this one, the current subject seems to be taking profits, greed, and how to actually get into an optimal mindset. Now me, it comes to an optimal mindset, it's a very double-edged sword when it comes to taking profits. And what we'll do, we'll discuss taking profits on not just day trading purposes, but also on actually like hodling a portfolio and long-term investments as well, because there are two different ways to look at it. But the main overall agenda should be the market is volatile. You will never be right 100% of the times. This is the first thing you have to always remember. Even when the market moves in your favor, it will very quickly return to humble you. And this is a massive topic that should always be in the back of your head. Now, in the past Wizard Wednesdays, we identified how to capture market manipulation. And the best way to do that is to actually try and manipulate yourself so you're not out manipulated by the market manipulators. It's almost like Inception, but for market manipulation, if you kind of understand where I'm coming from. So when you actually take all of these factors into consideration, you realize that even when you may be 100% correct and the trade begins moving in your direction, nothing can prepare you for a sharp sudden reversal of $300 to $500 on the likes of BTC, or a sharp 10%, 15% reversal, which can very easily happen in the market. And what that means is you're potentially riding either a margin trade or you've bought the physical crypto at a very undervalued price, and you're riding that wave. You're watching the blockfolio just fluctuate higher and higher. You're thinking, great, 70% ROI, let's see if we can get to 100%. Or even on margin trading, you've made double your money. You've now flipped your initial investment. The trade is still running. Your target has a little bit to go. Why is it we as humans cannot take that profit? There are times, I think the bull run is one of the biggest ways to describe this. I mean, we were literally making money out of thin air. Money many of us have never seen in our lives in such a short period of time. Yet for some reason, greed, that pesky personality trait of greed, that underlying psychological and subconscious emotion of greed and hunger, it just stops us from thinking logically and rationally. And again, the bull run is the best example. Guys, I was literally making hundreds of thousands in a matter of seconds, but yet my brain was telling me just hold on a little longer, and it's only when you actually take a little bit of profit, and thankfully I did take some profits, but the majority is obviously still being held, and we are in this massive hodling battle together psychologically and emotionally. But it was only when price began returning that it started to humble me, and I realized that how else will you really make money like that in such a short space of time? And why, like, what logical person would not take profit at that moment? But during the euphoria, the happiness, you see the numbers rising, you've got this figure in your head of what you want to achieve. And unfortunately, that figure can, not necessarily in an egotistical way and being self-righteous or right, but when you've got that projected target in your head, let's just say you're never normally used to making £1,000 a trade or $1,000, whatever it may be. Average, you make around $200, $300. The trade has now gone into $1,000 profit because you've added a bit more risk to your trade. Now, you've still got around 50% of that journey left towards your target. You're in $1,000 profit already, almost triple what you normally used to, maybe even more, maybe even 5 times what you're normally getting. But all you're thinking in your head is, well, this is great. I've still got 50% left of that journey to go. I can literally make like 10 times what I'm going to make now if I just keep doing this, or if I keep adding positions. But unfortunately, the way the crypto market works is it will become very volatile when you least expect it. And if you are not using sufficient stop losses, sufficient take profits, you're going to get wiped out. And it's happened to me in the early days. It still happens to me sometimes, because you're never 100% going to stick to your plan. You will always make mistakes as a trader, and this is something you have to accept. You will never be right 100% of the time. You will never win every single trade. And as much as people like to represent on social media, they only win, what many people do not show you is a lot of their losses are probably more significant than their actual winners, and they normally have to just reload an account instead of actually retrading it back up. And this is very common in the trading world of Forex, stocks and crypto. So People like to shy away from the fact they lose. People like to shy away from the fact that they actually have losses bigger than their winners. But these people are just sometimes either making slip-ups in their actual overall trading plan, which will just happen inevitably. But the overall agenda is you have to accept and understand and be very real with yourself that these moments can happen, and it's normally not a fault of your own. It's because you, especially in crypto, you were not thinking about manipulating yourself before you could get manipulated. So for me, it's about gratitude. I always talk about gratitude and expressing the actual gratefulness for what you are achieving in this market. So for example, with margin trading, a good example was BTC when it broke out from, let me get the exact price, when we broke out on that daily time frame from around $4,900, give or take approximately. I entered that long position off a huge candle, a fairly bold move if I say so myself. However, from that movement, we saw BTC, I entered one lot, and we saw it climb to $5,500, which was approximately around $5,500, $6,000 profit. I believe it was around that figure. Now, from that entire process, even though I knew it was going to go to that level, not 100%, but there's a reason I went long towards that target. Why was I like an almost nervous wreck following that stop loss higher every single time price started jumping an extra $100 or an extra $50? Why was I doing that? That's because I'm so aware of what's going to happen if you are not taking these safety precautions. So there are two different ways you can really do this, and there is a whole magnitude of this content I'm literally covering in the course right now. That's why it's so fresh in my head, and I thought I'd throw in some of these segments to actually just teach you guys. But what people are not realizing is when it comes to these situations, the market is rocketing. You're in thousands of dollars profit, hundreds of dollars profit, even tens of dollars of profit. If you are in profits, you are in profit. And the way I see it is, I would rather end that day with $10 profit or break even than a loss. It's very simple. And knowing that the aim of this game is for the manipulators of the market, the whales, the institutions, is to catch you out. The aim of the game is to avoid getting burnt, because their aim and their agenda is to make sure you are getting burnt and you are not getting those profits. There are many times you will see the technical analysis formations, candlestick patterns, they are literally screaming for a textbook trade to unfold, but there are times when they will not unfold. Now in these situations, you cannot always prevent them. Unfortunately, you will have to accept losses. But in the likes of being in profit, this is the main topic. People want to know about taking greed. You want to know, taking profit, and why greed underlies this. And that's because there is something in that moment when you see those numbers fluctuating, you cannot detach from the actual artificial euphoria you're experiencing. And that's because it is euphoria. You have to, the way I've always seen this is, even now, to be honest with you, I've become literally dead inside and numb to numerical changes in whether that's money in my bank account, anything. I'm really just numb to money, and I do believe that's one of the best ways to be. It does have its pros and cons, do not get me wrong. It does have the obvious, okay, that was a mess up. 12 minutes in, that's impressive. It's the longest I've been without a mess up. But the obvious sorry guys, apologies. The obvious cons to actually being a bit more numb to money, although I highly suggest it and it's something that will come over time, I believe you have to suffer a lot of emotional damage in terms of losses and going down to rock bottom again and again and again, and that will really just numb you to the actual, I guess you could say, the process of money and how to make it and what its actual value is. Because as much as I understand the value of money through working those horrible jobs, the 9-to-5s, the apprenticeships, the internships, all of those kind of labor jobs as well, it teaches you the value of money. But at the same time, when you've actually suffered losses and built yourself back up from scratch again and again and again, the actual value of that money does start to deteriorate in your eyes, and you start to realize that it is just a number on a system. However, it's very different when it comes to real life, because when those trades are fluctuating, and let's just say you're seeing $5,000, for example, as I was seeing on that one trade, we hit around $5,700 as BTC started peaking around $5,500. Now, all I thought in my head was, well, I guess I could just hold this out to an extra $500, make an extra 500 or $1,000. That would be pretty good. Then we'll just close it out. But at the same time, I'm also aware that, hold on, the going is getting pretty good. You know the saying, if it's too good to be true, it probably isn't true? Well, this is the same for trading. If you are running an absolutely phenomenal trade and it's starting to become a bit too good, you should be thinking in your head, I probably should close off half this position. Even if it's 20%, 30%, and you move your stop loss into profit, you do not realize this at the time because you think, oh my God, I'm restricting myself. What if this just rockets $500? Well, guess what? What if it doesn't? that is something you always have to consider. Yes, it may do, but if you've closed a profit and you've secured your stop loss to either break even or in profit, you have won regardless. The aim of the game is to win regardless. Even if you could have made an extra potential $500 or $1,000 or $10,000, if you've closed off $5,000 and you could have made an extra $15,000, guess what? You've made $5,000. Close the laptop, close your desktop, close your trading platform, call it a day and be grateful, because guess what? You have made that money through hard work by using your brain. It is actually incredibly draining, like super draining to be day trading and frequently scalping these markets. And it's again, a double-edged sword that I'm going to discuss in a minute, because people are asking me how I get into optimal form, and it's a very hard topic to actually discuss, because a lot of the stuff I actually preach or practice, I do find it very hard to do myself, because my body, my brain, my mind, I'm not sure if this is some form of like personality disorder or something, but I seem to function quite opposite to many people, and that's of course the nocturnal way. The lack of sleep seems to provide me better ideas. It seems to give me a more fluid thought process, which is very strange, but I seem to thrive at night versus the day. So I'm literally an owl slash vampire slash a bat. I'm not really sure how my brain functions, but I seem to function in an opposite manner. But just to finish off on the whole take profit theory, guys, profit is better than no profits. And a good example of why I was continuously dragging that stop loss higher is because guess what? BTC done after finally reaching that $5,500 mark. It melted in a rapid movement down to $4,900. Now, even though my entry was still way below this region, why would I physically wait? How many days was that? Let's just check. I waited around 8 days to see that significant profit. Why would I then, in one single candle movement, risk almost 90% of that trade to the downside just to potentially ride it again over a matter of a week and a half, which it's now doing, just to get back to just below the original level and not even have the same amount of money, plus endure the fees, plus endure the swaps, all the commissions that are taken from brokers, just to say I was right? No. The ego must be detached and separated from trading, because if a trade is going in your favor and you can see it's unfolding, but you see some threatening signs it may not be working in your favor, guys, what's more important in life, showing you are right or securing the money and showing you are right through that method anyway? Because guess what, if I say, let's just say Bitcoin right now is at $5,300 and I'm projecting it to peak around $4,700, if Bitcoin only falls to $5,000 or $4,900 and I see a sign of a reversal, I don't give a fuck what anyone says. I am either moving that stop loss very tight to the current price, I'm either taking off 50 to 70, 80% of my position, or I'm just closing it all together. Because guess what? The guy who, especially with me, there's a bit of pressure going online and actually posting it, but I don't give a fuck, because it is still right if you make money. If a trade unfolds in your direction, you have to realize that you do not want to be the guy that clings on to that extra little bit of gratification just to prove to your ego and to the world that you are this great kingpin of trading, or whoever you may think you may be in the world of trading. For me, it's not about that. For me, it's about taking a profit, securing it, having that money in my account, knowing I can either withdraw a little amount, no matter what, or you've even given yourself capital to have a safe, risk-free next trade. Imagine, for example, your overall risk on a trade is $500 to $1,000. Now, if you have a trade that is going in your direction, but it looks a bit threatening, close out the $500 that you may have in profit right now, or $1,000, and guess what? You've just bought yourself 1 to 2 trades worth of your normal trade risk for absolutely free. You've literally boosted your account size to either withdraw, or you can take that little further risk and actually take another 2 trades, or take one big trade with a slightly larger risk per pip. And then guess what? You've potentially, if it goes in your favor, you've now had more profit by taking a little bit more risk that is absolutely hasn't affected your initial account size, and you've potentially made more money. If you lose, guess what? You go back to lower risk, you're back to your initial account size, now you go back to your initial trading methods. There are so many benefits to taking profits beside actually spending it. And sometimes they do say you actually trade better after having a winner, because yes, you shouldn't really necessarily get too egotistical, but at the same time, it is good for positivity. And again, I'm a big believer in frequencies and energies, in contagious vibes. And I believe that if you're in that positive, winning mindset of trading, it can work in your favor to get that sharpness. You almost have that edge in your trading when you're in a good mood, when you're bubbly, you're bouncing, and you can almost spot those patterns just continuously. And again, once the losing streak comes, it's just about remembering the winning streaks to actually get you through those losing streaks, because they'll come. And we just have to accept this. As I say this every single time, I do not care if I lose 10 trades in a row, because I know when the time comes, that winning streak will overtake the losses anyway. And this is something that many people need to understand. Many people start breaching, and this is a very common thought, and I promise you, we've all been there. You hit around 3-4 losses in a row. You're questioning everything you knew about trading. You are questioning yourself, your mindset, your capabilities. Are you a failure? Maybe this isn't for you. All of these horrific, toxic thoughts cross your mind when you are having those losing streaks. But isn't it funny how a month or two later, or even a week or two later, when the market starts to return in your favor, and if you actually just look back at what was going wrong, you realize why you were going wrong. You're probably trading whilst driving, or trying to trade from mobile only, or you were jumping ahead of your actual trading plan. It's only when you look forward and you've overcome that barrier that it helps you in the future to realize that taking profits are essential. And many of those losing streaks were only losers because your ego kept you holding on to those trades that could have even been closed at break even. Guys, if it's fluctuating a little bit too much around your level, do not be afraid to get out that trade. Or if not, do not worry about what other people think. My biggest philosophy in life is always just forgetting what the fuck people think and doing what makes you happy, and not being attached to other people's ideologies of you, what you should be or who you can be. The quicker you stick and compete with yourself in trading, the more successful you will be. It's very easy to go on Instagram and look at someone that's posted a 100,000 win or a 500 win, dollar win, whatever it may be, and you can look at them and think, I should be on that level, I should be doing that. But no, because these people are not showing you what goes on behind the scenes. They're showing you wins, or one loss out of 700 wins. So in your head, you're thinking, I should be doing this. And then you're taking on more risk. You're trying to over leverage. You're trying to take more trades, and your mindset just gets polluted by trying to become somebody you are not yet. And you do not realize, if you just compete with yourself at becoming better, everything you want from trading, whether it's continuous success, more, I guess you could say, vigilance in spotting flaws and reversals, or flipping accounts, the more you compete with yourself and avoid paying attention to what other people do, you will progress much faster. And again, it's all about staying in your own lane, focusing at your own pace. If someone starts having a win, this is very common, people that start out with their friends, and let's just say their friend suddenly has a 4-trade winning streak, but yet they cannot seem to have their first winning trade, or you've had a bad streak, you're straight away thinking, wow, my friend's better than me. Maybe he's picked this up. Maybe this isn't for me. Maybe he's just like naturally gifted at this, and that's bullshit. I know people who are not very skilled in computers, but they are some of the best traders I know in the world. And you have to realize this is a skill set that can be for absolutely anybody. You do not need an educational background. You just need to learn how to master your emotions. Trading is not about reading charts. It's about reading your own emotions, your brain, and your mind. And the quicker you realize these little aspects, like securing profits, using that stop loss, taking away your pride. Who gives a fuck if you've missed out on an extra $100 or $2 of profit? If you've closed $100 or $2 in profit, guess what? You've started the day in more profit than you did the day before, and that is the goal. You're either buying yourself more room to take more risk, more account growth. Imagine if you just take a trade, and realistically this is possible. A bit like actually I can't explain that stuff that's in the course. I almost let that slip. Let's just say you take a trade, and every day you want to close $200 profit. It's quite easy to do if you're trading around one lot. I mean, that's literally a tiny increment of movement. Even if you're trading less than one lot and you're trading like 0.1, to make, let's just say, $50 to $100 a day, it's relatively easy with the price swings of BTC, which on average does jump around $100 to $300 on a daily basis. I mean, this thing can exceed huge numbers in market movement. Now, imagine you just capture one of those, even 20% of that movement every day. You are making around $100, $200 a day. Imagine you just close that out. You're not waiting for the full movement. You just close out $100 a day. Guess what? In the week, that's $700. You are making insane money, but people are always looking at the bigger picture. Everybody wants that home run trade, and this is a massive problem in trading. We're all looking for that home run, that big winner, the the $10,000 trade, the $6,000 trade, the $20, $50, $100,000 trade. We're all looking for that home run, but they are called home runs for a reason because they come once in a while. They are a dime in a dozen. In between the frequent trades, the dime in a dozen, the home run will come naturally. You will not expect it. The market will just absolutely fucking explode in the direction you want it, but you have to let it come naturally. Everything in between should be calculated. Do not be greedy. So for example, now BTC starts breaking to $5,000 as I want. That stop loss is straight away getting moved to at least 5,150 or 5,160, anywhere around that region, because if it whipsaws back and it closes me out, happy days. It's gone against me, which means I would have been wrong anyway. Now remember this, I keep my stop losses tight because these reversals happen without expecting. You will literally be in, the price will have gone up $600. Guess what? It now drops $300. It's lost 50% of its value in pretty much a day, just from one sharp manipulative stop hunt. So you have to look at it in these perspectives. And the reason I keep my stops tight is because if you're going to keep it wide, its price will move so sharply anyway, it will likely hit your stop loss in less profit. So why not just move it as close to the price as possible? If it continues moving in your favor, happy days, you've made money. If it continues going against you, you've secured as much profit as possible. Now you've got more profit. If it dips all the way down to where your stop loss was going to be, now you know you can re-enter because it's fulfilled the majority of that move. Now you've got more capital, take more risk, or just take the same trade again and you now have more money in your account to accommodate this extra risk and this new trade that you've taken on. Guys, very simple stuff like this can make a massive difference in your trading career. And I really hope this is coming and hitting home because I promise you we have all been there. I still go there occasionally. You will never be Mr. or Mrs. Perfect. You will never be the holy God or whoever you want to be of trading, the guru. It will never be that way. You will always have your losses, and the quicker you can accept how to actually turn those losses technically into winners, your whole trading and mindset will change. Because realistically, having your stop loss hit is considered a loss because technically they are designed to prevent losses when the market reverses against you. But guess what? If that stop loss is in profit, give me those losses all day long and I promise you I will end up better and more wealthier and with a better bank account than that one guy who is trying to ride out the longest trade of a lifetime to prove they can make significant amount of money. And I promise you, in the long term, that's how it will work. You have to just be grateful and take it on the chin and understand that losses, when utilized correctly, can actually be very significant for your trading. Now, to finish this podcast off, when it comes to optimal mindsets, the problem is what it takes to get into an optimal mindset can be very different between many people. I know the generic stuff, sleeping, cutting down on additional substances like caffeine or drugs or not doing all that stuff. And again, you guys know about the DMTs and all the stuff that I've been kind of mentioned before, the psilocybin, all of these little microdosing things, they can help and literally optimize your brain to a crazy level. But the problem is, this is a case-by-case basis. And for me, what keeps me in optimal form is very weird. Maybe you guys can relate to this. So this isn't really a lesson, so to speak, in how to do it. It's more how I have found myself to work in optimal form. And for some reason, it seems to be because I have a very wondrous mind. My mind likes to just wander off and drift, to have these crazy thoughts, revelations, ideas. And it's so funny because the amount of times I will go on Instagram and start writing a rant, or I will have this weird revelation at like 2-3 in the morning and people message me like, are you on crack? Like what have you taken? Like what are you on, bro? Give me what you're on. But the truth is, I'm not on anything. I'm just laying in bed having these thoughts. I let the universe come to me when I'm ready, because the best way to remain in optimal form is meditation. It's called pranayama. That's one form of meditation where you can breathe through the nose. If not just traditional meditation, you do not realize the power of inner peace until you have experienced it. And for me, that comes at 2-3 o'clock in the morning when I've finally done all my work, whether that's for the wizard followers, whether that's for the course, whether that's for myself, whether that's when I've closed the charts. When I am at that 2-3 o'clock stage in the morning, marvelous, magical things happen to me because there's peace. My brain finally has time to rest. This is where a bath can come in handy as well. I have a bath and sometimes a glass of red wine just to unwind. And it doesn't matter if, I don't care if someone says to me alcohol's bad for you or this is bad for you. That is what helps me. So there are people have different things that can help them. Like for me in the morning, an espresso, a double espresso or a black coffee mixed with some coconut oil, that charges me up like no tomorrow. So where people are probably looking at me thinking I've done around 7 tablets or 7, like I've popped 7 mollies. In fact, I'm actually just on black coffee with a bit of coconut oil, but it gets me awoken, it rises me, and it helps my brain become stimulated to think. But the most important way to remain optimal throughout the day, I do believe many people should try this first. Now, I'm not saying ruin your sleeping pattern, because it can impact the sleeping pattern quite drastically. As for me, there are times where I won't even sleep for several days because it's insomnia, I guess you could call it. Probably not a good thing, but it does help me with my trading. It does help me with many other aspects of life as well, because when you find that silence and that peace, you're allowing the universe to message you. When you're so busy throughout the day, and I've really realized this now, you have to realize there are so many aspects in your day where, especially if you're living a very similar lifestyle to mine, which is 24/7 pretty much, you are barely allowing the universe time to communicate with yourself back and forth. Everything you do throughout the day, whether you're quickly taking a toilet break, you're on your phone, you're looking at the computers, you're looking at the charts, you're looking at Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, you're text messaging someone on WhatsApp, your Telegram notifications are going off, your whole world is polluted by electromagnetic waves 24/7. Even when you are taking a break, you're not really taking a break, because you're stimulating your brain through every other method except letting it rest. All you really do realistically is stimulate your brain through stimulation, but you're not allowing your brain to recover to actually stimulate itself. I know that sounds fucking insane, and I know many of these aspects will sound insane, but this is real. The biggest stimulation your brain can get is leaving it the fuck alone, sitting there at night, laying in bed and just relaxing. And I promise you, when you have those moments, after about half an hour to 40 minutes or even an hour, you start to have thoughts come to your head that you were not really expecting. And this is why I thrive at night, because once I've had that 40-minute period of just laying in bed looking at the ceiling, a bit strange, I know, it does sound, it's a bit like those lonely women after a breakup. I think I've said this before, where they just kind of watch TV, eating Ben and Jerry's. That probably works, but except it's in bed without the TV. Putting on some frequency music, adjusting, understanding different frequency ranges, how they can impact your brain. Putting in headphones or earphones for these frequencies can massively stimulate the electromagnetic and the frequency field around you. And again, you may not believe in this stuff, but I'm a big believer in frequencies and attracting energy and the law of attraction. And even putting on some study music on YouTube can massively get you in that zone and prepare you for the day ahead. Now, when it comes to sleep, again, it depends on what your lifestyle allows, because realistically, I can do whatever I want when I want. I can literally go to bed when I want. I'm very fortunate to be in that position, but at the same time, I do not abuse it, because I actually do the opposite. I probably have a lot more time. When I say time, I mean, when it comes to it realistically, I do not have to do what I do. I only choose to do this because it's a hobby and a passion. But realistically, I could just trade or work and only come onto my computer 1 or 2 times a day. But the passion and that burning desire keeps me doing it out of my own free will. I'm always battling myself to actually rest when I don't want to, but I love just going 24/7 at a very hard pace. What's crazy is I'm pretty privileged in the sense that I can actually do whatever I want when I want, but I'm probably one of the only people who does the exact opposite and actually ends up working more than the average person who even has a 9 to 5, or I used to do 12-hour shifts editing TV and stuff. I still never slept, and for some reason it's just how my body works. So there is this whole big aura with trading as well. Swing trading, day trading. Many people say set and forget, swing trade, and the problem is it's easy, but it's not. It's easier said than done. Now, when you are day trading or scalping or trying to catch small movements, unfortunately, that will never be the case. There is no such thing as set and forget. And little things like time zones, traveling to different countries, everything that changes can impact your overall trading because it shifts you out of your pattern. When it comes to swing trading, although it does allow a more relaxed lifestyle, to get into that optimal mindset, you still need to be alert. You cannot fully switch off, and that means checking your trades every 1 hour, every 4 hours, just staying in sync with those candlestick closures. And if you're not in sync with the markets, yeah, you can do the whole set and forget theory, but why would you willingly suffer a loss when you know if you just remain a bit more vigilant throughout the day and keep your brain slightly optimized to monitor those trades? If I'm swing trading with a wide stop loss, of course I've calculated my risk. But if I see the trade dip into profit, or I see it fluctuating around my entry, looking like it may reverse, why on earth would I take the extra risk if it's not necessary? I could just save that money that I'm potentially losing for a future trade. And then I do, even if it goes in my direction, I do not care, because it's now moved in my direction. I'm now in sync with the market, so it's now even higher probabilities that the next trade will work in my favor. Now, guys, I hope that has been a fairly big wake-up call for all of you, and a bit of a more insignificant and a significant insight actually into many different aspects that have been covered many times over by pretty much the whole trading world. But I'm kind of giving you a bigger insight into how I view the market, how I operate, how I work. So I guess in a way it's educational because it's coming from myself. I'm not just giving you philosophical life advice or anything like that. I'm actually giving you my own routine, my own structure, my own thought processes into how I kind of protect myself from losses. Because yes, there will be times where I lose more than I expect, or I go into a losing streak, or whatever happens. But I always take a break. I take a rest. I look at the markets. I evaluate my losses. And it's funny because the amount of times I've literally almost blown an account back in the day, I'll slowly but surely just get to grips with myself, get that mindset fixed, and build it back up again. One of the biggest downfalls for many people is they will blow their account or wipe out 70 to 80%, and all they'll try and do is get more aggressive. And I've learned this the hard way by trying to up the lot sizes, up the risk, and try and flip the money back. I promise you, after you've had a big significant losing streak, reduce your risk. Instead of trying to scalp the market to make quick wins, start swing trading. If you're having significant losses in the market, reduce your risk or keep the same risk, widen your stop losses, and let the trade breathe and try and catch longer movements. And I promise you, you will see how fast that account grows back. And then from there, you can either continue with that new flow of routine, or you can stick to going back to how you were trading. And all these little things make a massive difference in the long run. Now, unfortunately, I do not want to disclose everything and give away big key factors that I'm teaching. I've literally just finished that book now. It's almost 170 pages long. It's around 30,000 words. I've been working on this for a super long time. And this book will be an additional complementary feature that will be built in within the course as well. And I'll be revealing much more on this coming very soon. But the book is now done. There are videos I will not even reveal yet that are going to be covered on these topics as well. There is a whole magnitude of stuff coming forward on these topics, because the problem is right now, the market always evolves in the educational space around trading. No one covers trading yourself. No one covers educating yourself on yourself. I don't want to be educated on the market. I want to be educated on myself, because, as I said, growth comes from, and success in the market comes from, knowing how to actually do technical analysis on yourself, not just on the markets. But if you cannot do analysis on yourself and find the risk to the reward on your overall decisions, how can you determine risk to reward accurately on the charts if you cannot do so on yourself? Now, guys, I will leave you on that note. I hope you have enjoyed this podcast. You know the drill: the likes, the subscribes, the shares, and of course the comments and feedbacks are greatly appreciated. It means the absolute world to me, and I hope you guys are having a good Sunday, and I feel like we have a very profitable good week ahead. I will manifest that from today to boost us into Monday on some great positive vibes. Now, guys, go and enjoy. If you're in the UK, go and enjoy the sun, because this will probably last another 24 hours and it's back to Arctic conditions. If you're anywhere else in the world with sun, make the most of it, because us here in London, God, this is like the holy grail of weather. So please appreciate it and appreciate the sun wherever you are. As for the cold weather people, I'll likely be joining you very soon anyway. But until then, guys, have a good weekend and see you in the next podcast.